Commander Azra stood on the bridge of the Draconian flagship, the Tyrant's Wrath, surveying the holographic display of Earth with a mixture of pride and disdain. The blue planet rotated slowly in the center of the bridge, its continents and oceans detailed with remarkable precision considering they were still approaching from the edge of the solar system. Primitive. Azra set his scaled fingers dancing through the hologram to expand the view of North America. Their most advanced weapons are barely past the nuclear stage. No energy shields, no antimatter propulsion, not even rudimentary gravity manipulation. First Officer Krell approached his ceremonial armor, gleaming under the blue light of the hologram. The Conquest assessment teams report optimal conditions, Commander. Their communications networks are open and undefended. Military capabilities are fragmented by nation-state boundaries. No orbital defenses detected beyond rudimentary satellites and a small space station. Azra allowed himself a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. The Empire had conquered 37 worlds in the last century alone, but this would be his first command of a primary invasion. The Supreme Conqueror had personally selected him after his successful subjugation of the Centauri colonies. Earth would make a perfect addition to his record and to the Empire's ever-expanding territories. "Prepare the Vanguard scout vessels," Azra ordered. "I want atmospheric entry points identified within their day cycle. The Supreme Conqueror expects this world secured within one standard rotation." As the bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, Azra gazed at the planet again. Billions of beings who had no idea their way of life was about to end their resources and labor, soon to serve the greater glory of the Draconian Empire. He felt nothing for them. Conquest was the natural order. The strong ruled the weak, served. The humans would learn this fundamental truth soon enough. Thousands of miles below, deep in a mountain complex in Colorado, alarm klaxons blared through subterranean corridors. Dr. Lisa Wright abandoned her coffee, spilling it across mathematical calculations as she rushed to the central monitoring station. Multiple screens displayed trajectory calculations, heat signatures, and velocity measurements of objects that had just crossed the orbit of Mars. Frank Peters, the facility's chief of operations, was already there, his usual jovial demeanor replaced by focused intensity. 37 objects moving in formation. Deceleration patterns indicate controlled flight. These aren't meteors. Lisa's fingers flew across her keyboard, refining the tracking algorithms. The largest is approximately 2 kilometers in length. The thermal signatures suggest advanced propulsion fusion, at minimum, possibly something more exotic. "How long have we been tracking them?" she asked. "Deep Space Monitoring picked them up crossing the Kuiper Belt 3 days ago," Frank replied. "The automated systems flagged them as anomalous, but their trajectory adjustment toward Earth only happened 6 hours ago." Lisa pulled up another display showing communications relays across the globe. Secure channels were lighting up from Beijing to London, Moscow to Canberra. "Protocol Omega has been initiated. All participating nations are receiving the data now." Frank nodded grimly. 20 years of preparation. Let's hope it was enough. The facility, known officially as Deep Space Monitoring Station 12, but called the Burrow by those who worked there, was one of several secret installations built after the discovery of the alien transmission in 2043. The message hadn't been directed at Earth. It had been intercepted accidentally, a communication between conquest fleets discussing the subjugation of a civilization in the Proxima Centauri system. The revelation that humanity was not alone in the universe had been kept secret by an unprecedented agreement among global powers. Instead of announcing the discovery world, leaders had chosen preparation over panic. Across the globe, in an unmarked conference room, deep within the White House, President Eleanor Campbell sat at the head of a polished oak table, surrounded by the highest-ranking military and intelligence officials in the country. The atmosphere was tense but controlled. They had prepared for this day. "They're earlier than our models predicted," General Mason said, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of his tablet. "But the protocol is fully operational." Major Alan Rodriguez, the military liaison to the scientific division of Protocol Omega, stood to present. At 42, he had spent almost half his life dedicated to this program, rising through the ranks, while simultaneously learning everything possible about potential alien technologies and tactics. Madam President, the Draconian fleet, assuming our translation of their communications is accurate, consists of one command vessel, approximately 2 kilometers in length, and 36 support craft of varying sizes. Based on their approach vector and deceleration rate, they'll establish Earth orbit within 18 hours. And the public remains unaware, the President asked. Yes, Madam President, answered the Director of National Intelligence. We're maintaining the cover story of a meteor shower study for the increased activity at observatories. Social media monitoring shows no unusual spikes in alien-related content beyond the usual background noise. President Campbell nodded. And Protocol Omega is ready. Major Rodriguez exchanged glances with General Mason before answering. Yes, Madam President. All 3 phases are operational. The satellite network is fully deployed and disguised. Lunar Base Armstrong is on full alert, but maintaining normal operational appearance. The orbital platforms are powered but dormant. The President's eyes narrowed. What aren't you telling me, Major? Rodriguez hesitated. The truth is, Madam President, we're about to face a technologically superior force that has likely conquered dozens of worlds. Our preparations are based on intercepted communications and theoretical technology. Until we see them in action, we can't be certain our countermeasures will work. But you believe they will? I believe in humanity's capacity to surprise those who underestimate us, Rodriguez replied. The Draconians expect a primitive world with no unified defense. That misconception is our greatest advantage. President Campbell stood her decision made. Then we proceed as planned. No public announcement until after the first contact. I want hourly updates and full authorization for Phase 1 deployment. At your discretion, General Mason. As the meeting adjourned, Rodriguez lingered behind with General Mason. You didn't mention the casualties we're projecting, Mason said quietly. Rodriguez's jaw tightened. Because we can't know. If Protocol Omega works as designed, we might prevent any civilian casualties. If it fails. He left the sentence unfinished. Mason placed a hand on the younger officer's shoulder. 20 years of the world's best minds working in secret. The most advanced technology humanity has ever developed. If anyone can pull this off, it's your team. Rodriguez nodded, though the weight of responsibility felt crushing. Billions of lives depended on the success of their hidden defenses and on his ability to outthink an enemy humanity had never faced. Back on the Tyrant's Wrath, Azra received reports from the scout vessels, now entering Earth's upper atmosphere. The small, nimble craft were designed to gather detailed intelligence on planetary defenses and identify optimal landing zones for the main invasion force. Scout Leader Thrak reports minimal orbital obstacles, the communications officer announced. Their satellites are primitive communication and observation devices. No weapons detected. Azra nodded unsurprised. And their military response? Several nations have scrambled aircraft, but nothing that can reach our altitude. They appear to be establishing defensive perimeters around major military installations. Predictable and ineffective. Excellent. Prepare the second wave for... The bridge suddenly darkened as all holographic displays flickered and died. Emergency lighting activated, bathing the command center in a red glow. Report, Azra barked. Commander, we've lost contact with all scout vessels, the communications officer said, frantically working his console. Last telemetry shows a massive energy surge throughout Earth's orbital band. Impossible, Azra hissed. Their technology is nowhere near capable of... Incoming transmission, the officer interrupted. From the planet's surface. Before Azra could respond, the main view screen activated, showing a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. Attention, Draconian vessel, she said, her face betraying no fear. Your scout ships have been neutralized. This was a demonstration of our defensive capabilities. We are aware of your intentions and prepared to defend our world. We suggest you reconsider your approach." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Azra's initial shock quickly gave way to rage. "Find out what happened to our scouts. Full scan of their orbital system." He turned to his tactical officer. "Prepare the combat group. Whatever primitive trick they've employed won't work twice." In the Colorado facility, Lisa and Frank watched the data streams with a mixture of relief and tension. "EMP satellites performed better than expected," Lisa noted. "All 30 scout ships disabled simultaneously." Frank nodded. "The Faraday shielding on our systems held. We're still monitoring the Draconian response." On the main screen, they could see the disabled scout ships drifting in Earth's orbit, now harmless pieces of space debris. The larger Draconian vessels remained positioned near the moon, seemingly reassessing their strategy. "They'll adapt," Lisa said quietly. "The EMP was our one surprise. They'll shield their next wave. Then we'll be ready with the next surprise," Frank replied, though his voice lacked conviction. At the White House, the initial success of Protocol Omega had created a cautious optimism. Major Rodriguez stood before the assembled officials, explaining the current situation. "The EMP satellites functioned as designed. All Draconian scout vessels have been disabled. We've demonstrated that we're not the defenseless planet they expected." "And their response?" President Campbell asked. "They're regrouping near the lunar orbit. Our analysis suggests they're enhancing their electronic shielding and preparing a larger force. We expect the next wave to be significantly more powerful." General Mason leaned forward. "What's our next move, Major?" "Phase 2 of Protocol Omega," Rodriguez replied. "The solar flash satellites and smart dust deployment." The president frowned. "Remind me of the smart dust capability." "Microscopic robots, Madam President. Designed to infiltrate electronic systems and cause cascading failures. Delivery via non-explosive missiles that will appear to their sensors as harmless debris until impact." "And you believe this will work against their shields?" Rodriguez met her gaze evenly. "No electronic shield is perfect. The smart dust needs only the smallest entry point, a hull breach, an exhaust port, even electromagnetic leakage. Once inside, it will replicate and spread. But this isn't about winning, Madam President. It's about surprising them again, making them question their intelligence on our capabilities." "The real goal is to force a conversation," Mason added. "Every unexpected defense brings us closer to that possibility." President Campbell nodded slowly. "Proceed with Phase 2 then, and prepare Phase 3 just in case." Back on the Tyrant's Wrath, Azra had recovered from the initial setback and was now more determined than ever. The loss of the scout vessels was annoying, but insignificant in the larger context of the invasion. "The humans employed a primitive electromagnetic pulse weapon," the science officer explained. "Effective against unshielded electronics, but easily countered with our standard shielding technology." Azra paced the bridge, his claws clicking against the metallic floor. "They were prepared for us. This suggests either they detected our approach earlier than we anticipated, or they have developed more advanced monitoring technology than our intelligence indicated. Either way," the tactical officer interjected, "they still pose no significant threat to our main force. The combat group is ready for deployment, 50 medium attack vessels, fully shielded against electromagnetic interference." "Launch immediately," Azra ordered. "Establish low Earth orbit and begin targeting their major military installations. No direct assault yet. I want a display of force first. Let them see what true power looks like." As the combat group departed the fleet's position, Azra couldn't help feeling a twinge of respect for the humans' initial defense. It had been unexpected, a quality he rarely encountered in conquest operations. Still, it would make their eventual subjugation all the more satisfying. The 50 Draconian combat vessels moved into Earth's orbit in perfect formation, their sleek, predatory designs visible to amateur astronomers and military tracking stations alike. Across the planet, people looked up at the night sky, pointing at the new stars that moved with deliberate precision. The global news networks initially reporting on an unusual meteor shower now broadcast confused and alarming reports of unidentified objects in orbit. Governments worldwide issued carefully worded statements, urging calm while providing little actual information. In underground command centers, however, the reality was fully understood. Phase 2 of Protocol Omega was initiated without public announcement. As the Draconian combat group settled into orbit, their sensors detected a swarm of small objects rising from Earth's surface. Initial analysis classified them as primitive missiles, easily intercepted or absorbed by their advanced shields. Combat Group reports human weapons launch, Krell informed Azra. Rudimentary solid fuel rockets. No nuclear signatures detected. Azra smiled. Let them waste their primitive weapons against our shields. It will demonstrate the futility of resistance. But as the missiles approached the Draconian formation, they suddenly fragmented, breaking apart before impact. The combat vessel's shields flared briefly as they intercepted the debris, their sensors registering no significant damage. Then, without warning, the space around Earth's orbit blazed with light as dozens of satellites simultaneously released massive solar flares, concentrated bursts of electromagnetic radiation far more powerful than the earlier EMP attack. On the Tyrant's Wrath, alarms blared as communications with the combat group became erratic. Combat vessels report shield fluctuations. The communications officer shouted over the noise. Unknown particulate matter has breached several ships' internal systems following the solar radiation burst. On the tactical display, red warning indicators flashed across multiple vessels in the combat formation. Several had lost propulsion, while others reported cascading systems failures. "Impossible," Azra hissed. "Their technology cannot penetrate our shields. The radiation burst appears to have created momentary shield harmonics," the science officer explained, allowing the debris particles entry. "They appear to be self-replicating microdevices." Azra slammed his fist on the command console. "Recall the damaged vessels. Order the remaining combat ships to withdraw to defensive positions." As he watched his combat group falter, Azra realized he had dramatically underestimated the humans' technological capabilities. Whatever intelligence the Empire had gathered on Earth was severely outdated or deliberately misleading. Below, in the Cheyenne Mountain complex, Major Rodriguez watched the tactical display with grim satisfaction. Nearly half of the Draconian combat vessels were now disabled or severely compromised by the smart dust infiltration. Phase 2 effectiveness at 47%, Lisa reported. "Better than our simulations predicted." "The drone fighters are in position," Frank added. "Ready to deploy on your command." Rodriguez nodded. "Launch them. Let's show the Draconians our offensive capabilities as well." Across the globe, from hidden bases in deserts, mountains, and beneath the oceans, thousands of advanced drone fighters took to the skies. Unlike any aircraft publicly known to exist, these machines represented the pinnacle of Earth's secret technological development, incorporating both human innovation and reverse-engineered concepts gleaned from the intercepted alien communications. As the drones reached the upper atmosphere, they formed into attack patterns and accelerated toward the damaged Draconian vessels. On the Tyrant's Wrath, the tactical situation was deteriorating rapidly. "Combat Group reports atmospheric craft approaching," the tactical officer announced. "Thousands of them, small, but fast-moving." "Destroy them," Azra commanded. "The vessels are attempting to engage, Commander, but the micro-devices have compromised weapon systems on multiple ships. The human craft are herding our vessels into a concentrated area of space." Azra watched in disbelief as his combat group ships that had participated in the conquest of entire star systems were outmaneuvered by Earth fighters. The remaining functional Draconian vessels fired at the swarm of drones, destroying dozens with each energy burst. But the human craft were too numerous and too agile. In the Colorado facility, another key player had joined the operation. Kyle Davidson, the world's foremost expert in xenolinguistics and cryptography, had been working for years to decode the Draconian communication protocols from the original intercepted messages. "I've got it," he announced, his fingers flying across his specialized interface. "Their communication encryption is complex, but follows predictable mathematical progressions. I can break into their command channel." Rodriguez looked up from the battle display. "Can you transmit as well as receive?" Kyle nodded. "Yes, but what message could possibly—" "Show them what they're really facing," Rodriguez interrupted. "Not just what we've revealed so far, but everything." Understanding dawned on Kyle's face. Psychological warfare. Make them think twice about continuing this invasion. While the space battle continued, Kyle compiled a data package containing carefully selected imagery: the vast underground bases around the world, the lunar outpost on the far side of the moon, orbital weapons platforms, currently in stealth mode, manufacturing facilities, producing thousands more drone fighters, and global defense systems that had remained completely hidden from Draconian sensors. Some of these were real secret installations built under Protocol Omega. Others were elaborate fabrications indistinguishable from reality to anyone not intimately familiar with Earth's true capabilities. Kyle transmitted the package directly to the Draconian command ship, bypassing their standard communication protocols, using the encryption keys he had broken. On the Tyrant's Wrath, Azra was preparing to deploy the main fleet when the ship's primary view screen activated without command, displaying a stream of images and schematics. "What is this?" he demanded. "The humans have penetrated our communication security," the science officer replied, unable to hide his shock. "They're transmitting directly to our systems." Azra watched in stunned silence as the images revealed a planet far more prepared for interstellar conflict than anything their intelligence had suggested. Underground bases larger than cities, a lunar outpost with massive energy weapons aimed outward, orbital platforms with technology that appeared to rival their own. Then, a human face appeared on the screen, a male with dark eyes and a stern expression. "Commander Azra of the Draconian Fleet," Major Rodriguez said, using the alien's name and title deliberately to demonstrate the depth of Earth's intelligence. "You have witnessed only a fraction of our defensive capabilities. Your combat group has been neutralized using our most basic countermeasures." Rodriguez paused, letting the implication sink in. "We have studied your empire for decades. We know your conquest protocols, your weapon systems, even your command structure. What you thought would be an easy subjugation has become a costly mistake." Azra's scales darkened with rage, a physiological reaction his species displayed when deeply threatened. "Who are you to speak to me this way? Your planet will burn for this insolence." Rodriguez remained calm. "I am Major Alan Rodriguez, Earth Defense Command, and you should know that we have transmitted evidence of your invasion attempt to 3 neighboring star systems, with whom we have established diplomatic relations. Should you proceed with your attack, the Draconian Empire will face not one world, but a coalition." This was a complete fabrication. Humanity had no such interstellar allies, but the Draconian commander had no way to verify this claim immediately. Before Azra could respond, Rodriguez ended the transmission. In the silence that followed, Azra turned to his officers. "Prepare the main fleet. We will not be deterred by tricks and false images. The Supreme Conqueror demands this world, and we shall deliver it." Despite his confident words, doubt had begun to creep into Azra's mind. The humans had already demonstrated capabilities far beyond their expected technological level. What if some of those images were genuine? What if they truly had established contact with other star systems? But Imperial doctrine allowed no room for hesitation. Conquest was the way of the Draconian Empire. Retreat meant disgrace, even execution. "All warships move into orbital bombardment position," Azra commanded. "Target their major cities simultaneously. We will crush their resistance in one devastating strike." The main Draconian fleet, 300 massive warships each, bristling with planet-killing weaponry, moved into Earth's orbit, positioning themselves above major population centers around the globe. From Tokyo to New York, London to Sydney, Millions of people looked up to see ominous shapes blotting out the stars. Global panic ensued as governments worldwide finally acknowledged the alien presence. But in secret command centers, Protocol Omega entered its final phase. "They're preparing to fire," Lisa announced, her voice steady despite the stakes. "Energy signatures building in all vessels." Rodriguez turned to the communications officer. "Connect me to Lunar Base Armstrong." A moment later, a face appeared on the screen, Ryan Martinez, chief engineer of humanity's secret lunar outpost. "Major Rodriguez, we're tracking the Draconian fleet movement. They're positioning for a synchronized attack." "Is the gravity web ready?" Martinez nodded. "Charged and calibrated. Awaiting your command." Rodriguez looked around at the control room staff, dedicated men and women who had worked in secret for years, preparing for this moment. "Activate on my mark." Throughout the room, technicians confirmed their systems were ready. The lunar base reported full power to the gravity manipulation array. Orbital platforms silently aligned their energy collection dishes. On the Tyrant's Wrath, Azra gave the final command. "All vessels commence planetary bombardment. Show these humans the consequence of defiance." 300 Draconian warships simultaneously fired their main weapons beams of devastatingly concentrated energy directed at Earth's most populated areas. The combined firepower was sufficient to level cities to turn urban centers into smoking craters. But the beams never reached their targets. Halfway between the ships and Earth's atmosphere, the deadly energy seemed to bend to curve away from its intended path. The beams twisted in space, following an invisible pattern, before dispersing harmlessly into the void. On the Draconian flagship, confusion reigned. "What happened?" Azra demanded. "Where did our attack go?" "Unknown energy distortion." The science officer reported, his voice shaking. "Something is bending space itself around the planet. Fire again, maximum power." The fleet fired a second salvo with the same result. The energy beams followed the same curved paths, dissipating without reaching the planet's surface. Then, to the horror of the Draconian commanders, those same energy signatures began to coalesce at a single point in space directly adjacent to one of their largest warships. In the lunar base, Ryan Martinez monitored the energy redirection matrix with intense concentration. "Capture complete. Redirection pathways stable. Target locked." "Proceed," Rodriguez ordered. Martinez pressed his palm against the activation panel. "Returning their energy. Now." The collected energy, the combined power of 300 Draconian weapons, surged back through space in a concentrated beam, striking one of the largest Draconian warships. For a moment, the massive vessel was outlined in brilliant light as its shields flared, struggling to absorb the enormous energy influx. Then, the shields collapsed and the ship itself began to break apart silently, exploding in the vacuum of space. On the Tyrant's Wrath, Azra watched in disbelief as one of his most powerful vessels disintegrated. Not only had the humans neutralized their attack, but they had somehow turned the Draconians' own weapons against them. "Impossible," he whispered. "Their technology cannot—" "Incoming transmission!" the communications officer interrupted. Major Rodriguez appeared on the screen again, his expression grave, but not triumphant. "Commander Azra, you have witnessed Phase 3 of Earth's defensive capabilities. Your weapons cannot penetrate our gravity web. Your energy attacks can be captured and redirected. We have additional measures prepared, but I would prefer not to use them." Rodriguez paused, letting his words sink in. "I propose a conversation instead of continued conflict. Our species need not be enemies. There is another path forward, one that doesn't end with needless destruction on either side." Azra's mind raced. Everything he knew about conquest, about the Empire's unstoppable march across the galaxy, seemed suddenly uncertain. The humans had countered every attack, had demonstrated technology that rivaled or even exceeded Draconian capabilities in some areas. And yet they were offering conversation rather than pressing their advantage. "Why should I trust your words?" Azra demanded. "You have deceived us about your planet's capabilities from the beginning. As you deceived yourselves by assuming we were primitive, Rodriguez countered. We intercepted your communications decades ago, Commander. We've been preparing for this day while you believed you were approaching an unsuspecting world. Rodriguez leaned closer to the screen. We don't want to destroy your ships or take your lives, Commander. We want to establish understanding. The choice between warfare and diplomacy is yours to make. The bridge was silent as all eyes turned to Azra. Imperial doctrine demanded conquest at any cost, but the tactical reality suggested that victory, if possible at all, would come at a devastating price. Hold position, Azra finally ordered. Cease all weapons charging. I will consider your proposal. As the transmission ended, Azra turned to his first officer. Krell, your assessment. The veteran warrior considered carefully before speaking. The humans have demonstrated 3 sophisticated defensive systems, each one a surprise. They claim to have more. Even if they are bluffing, we have no way to know which capabilities are real and which are fabrication. A direct assault may succeed, but casualties would be significant. And the Supreme Conqueror expects this world as tribute, Azra said bitterly. The Supreme Conqueror expects success, Krell replied carefully. There are many forms that success can take. Before Azra could respond, the communications officer interrupted urgently. Commander, we're detecting unauthorized communications between several of our vessels. Encrypted channels, non-standard protocols. Source: Battle Group Commander Vex's flagship, sir. Communicating with at least 5 other capital ships. Azra's eyes narrowed. Vex had always been ambitious, always pushing for a more aggressive approach. If he was using unauthorized channels during a combat situation, monitor those communications, decrypt immediately. Minutes later, Azra's suspicions were confirmed. The decoded messages revealed a plot among several commanders to disregard any negotiation orders to launch an independent attack on Earth's population centers, using alternative targeting calculations to bypass the gravity web. What truly shocked Azra, however, was the next transmission from Earth. Commander Azra, Rodriguez, said, his image appearing suddenly on the command screen. We've detected communications among your fleet suggesting a faction is planning to disregard your authority and launch an unauthorized attack. We've decrypted their transmission and are sending it to you now. The evidence appeared on a secondary screen, the exact same conspiracy Azra's own officers had just uncovered. How did you? Azra began, then stopped himself. The humans had already demonstrated their ability to penetrate Draconian communications. But why warn him about an internal threat? We believe in your authority as fleet commander, Rodriguez continued, and we believe that unauthorized actions by rogue elements would undermine any possibility of peaceful resolution. We're prepared to assist if necessary. Azra straightened his decision made. No assistance will be required. The Draconian Empire handles its own discipline. Within minutes, Azra had dispatched loyalist forces to the conspirators' ships. Commander Vex and the other plotters were arrested and summarily executed, a harsh but standard punishment for mutiny in the Imperial fleet. Their ships were secured under the command of loyal officers. When he contacted Rodriguez again, Azra's tone had changed subtly. The threat has been eliminated. Your warning was appreciated. Rodriguez nodded. Consider it a demonstration of good faith. We've had opportunities to attack your fleet at multiple points, but have chosen restraint. We hope you recognize the significance of that choice. I do, Azra acknowledged. Perhaps there is merit in your proposal of conversation. The President of the United States, speaking on behalf of Earth's nations, proposes a temporary alliance while we establish diplomatic protocols. As a gesture of mutual trust, we ask that your main fleet withdraw to outer orbit. Azra considered this request. Pulling back the fleet would go against all conquest protocols, but this situation had already broken every standard procedure. The humans had proven themselves worthy adversaries. Perhaps they could be valuable allies instead. Agreed, he finally said. But I will maintain a defensive posture. Any sign of treachery will be met with immediate retaliation. Understood, Rodriguez replied. We would expect nothing less. As the Draconian fleet began its withdrawal to a higher orbit, giving Earth breathing room, another defensive system revealed itself. Shimmering energy shields materialized over major cities, worldwide transparent domes of bluish light that would have intercepted any weapons that might have penetrated the gravity web. In the Colorado facility, Dr. Grace Williams, the lead physicist behind the shield technology, watched the energy readings with satisfaction. Shield harmonics stable at all 25 deployment sites. We could have maintained them for 6 hours under direct bombardment. Lisa turned to Rodriguez. Should we have revealed that capability, we've now shown nearly all our major defensive systems. It's a calculated risk, Rodriguez replied. Each revealed defense builds our credibility. Azra needs to believe we've been honest about our capabilities if trust is to develop. And have we been? Frank asked quietly. We've shown him real defenses, yes, but also bluffed about interstellar allies and implied we have even more systems in reserve. Rodriguez's expression remained neutral. In diplomacy, as in warfare, perception often matters more than reality. The Draconians came expecting conquest and found partnership instead, even if that partnership began with mutual deception. Over the next month, a cautious integration process began. Azra, along with a small delegation of Draconian officials, visited Earth's surface under strict security protocols. Lisa Wright, now serving as a cultural liaison, escorted the alien commander through carefully choreographed encounters with Earth's cultures, from sacred ceremonies to artistic performances. Simultaneously, human representatives boarded the Tyrant's Wrath, learning about Draconian technology, social structures, and the broader galactic community they represented. Both sides maintained vigilance, but genuine moments of connection began to emerge. Azra, raised in the conquest-oriented culture of the Empire, found himself increasingly fascinated by Earth's diversity and the unusual approach of cooperation between formerly competing nations. Your species fought countless wars against itself, he remarked to Lisa, during a tour of the United Nations building in New York. Yet when faced with an external threat, you united in secret, while maintaining the appearance of division. It is not a strategy the Empire would have predicted. Lisa studied the alien commander's reptilian features, learning to read the subtle shifts in scale coloration that indicated his emotional state. Necessity drives innovation, Commander. When we intercepted your communications about the Proxima Centauri conquest, we had a choice: panic or prepare. Our leaders chose the latter. A wise choice, Azra acknowledged. Many worlds have fallen because they wasted precious warning time in political disputes or mass hysteria. 1 month after the initial confrontation, a historic assembly was convened at the United Nations. For the first time, the full truth was revealed to Earth's population, both about the alien arrival and about the decades of secret cooperation among nations. President Campbell addressed a stunned global audience. Citizens of Earth. For nearly 30 years, our governments have worked together in secret, preparing for the possibility of extraterrestrial contact. When we confirmed the approach of the Draconian fleet, these preparations were activated under Protocol Omega. On screens, worldwide classified images were shown for the first time: the hidden bases, the lunar station, the orbital platforms that had defended Earth without most of its population ever knowing they existed. This secrecy was necessary. The President continued, not to deceive our citizens, but to ensure that any watching eyes from beyond our world would underestimate our readiness. Today, that secrecy ends as we enter a new chapter in human history, one where we take our place among the stars, not as conquered subjects, but as respected equals. When Azra took the podium, the global audience watched in a mixture of fear and fascination. The Draconian commander, towering over the human officials beside him, cut an imposing figure with his armored exoskeleton and reptilian features. People of Earth. He began, his voice translated through systems developed specifically for this historic address. I came to your world as a conqueror. I remain as an ambassador. He described the Draconian Empire's history of expansion, their encounters with dozens of civilizations across the galaxy. Many worlds have fallen before our fleets. None have done what Earth has accomplished, forcing us to reconsider not just our tactics, but our purpose. As Azra spoke, drafts of the treaty between Earth and the Draconian Empire were being distributed to world leaders. The terms reflected a remarkable shift from the Empire's standard conquest protocols. Earth would remain sovereign and independent, neither subject to nor part of the Empire. Technology exchange would proceed in carefully regulated stages, with Earth receiving starship blueprints that would enable interstellar travel within 5 years. The Draconians would gain a diplomatic partnership that could potentially open new approaches to imperial expansion through alliance rather than subjugation. Security arrangements included joint patrols of the solar system, with liaison offices established both on Earth and aboard the Tyrant's Wrath. When the formal ceremonies concluded, Major Rodriguez found himself standing on a balcony overlooking the New York skyline, Commander Azra at his side. In the distance, the first joint human-Draconian exploration vessel was being prepared for launch, a small but symbolic mission to the outer planets of the solar system. "Your superiors in the Empire," Rodriguez said carefully. "How will they react to this outcome? A treaty instead of a conquest?" Azra's scales shifted color slightly. An expression Rodriguez had learned indicated thoughtfulness rather than deception. "The Supreme Conqueror expects results, not methods. Earth's technology and resources will benefit the Empire, just not in the manner initially envisioned. And if they disapprove, then Earth has gained valuable time," Azra replied, with unexpected frankness. "Time to further develop the impressive defenses you revealed, and perhaps those you still keep hidden." Rodriguez didn't confirm or deny the implication that Earth possessed even more defensive systems. The truth that they had revealed nearly everything in their arsenal during the confrontation was a secret best kept between Earth's leaders. "Do you regret it?" Rodriguez asked after a moment. "The path not taken, the conquest that might have been—" Azra considered the question. "The Empire has conquered many worlds, Major Rodriguez, but none have taught us what Earth has in these few cycles. Perhaps conquest is not the only path to greatness." As they watched the joint vessel launch a streak of light rising into the evening sky, both the human strategist and the alien commander shared a moment of silent understanding. They had begun as enemies become reluctant allies, and now stood at the threshold of something neither could fully predict. Far beyond Earth in the central worlds of the Draconian Empire, the Supreme Conqueror received Azra's report with calculating interest. The unexpected outcome of the Earth expedition represented something novel in the Empire's long history, a civilization that had forced adaptation rather than submission. "Monitor this situation closely," the Supreme Conqueror instructed his advisors. "This diplomatic approach may prove useful for certain resistive worlds, or it may require correction in the future. But that was a consideration for another day. For now, two civilizations that might have destroyed each other had found a different path, one built on mutual respect, born in conflict, and cemented in cooperation. Whether that path would lead to lasting peace, or merely delay an inevitable confrontation, remained to be seen. On Earth, as news of the treaty spread, and humanity began to process both the threat they had faced and the future now opening before them, Rodriguez and Azra continued their conversation, two warriors from different worlds, finding common ground in the space between stars.